Good evening. How's it going? Good to see you. And giving you a couple of days just to get used to the tone of where we're going to go for a little while. And so we'll be doing them daily from here. Funny thing, just before I get into this, was I've been driving a Ferrari for the last 3 or 4 days. It was a long story, but came as part of a property deal and is going as a part of another property deal. But I've been driving it around. Thoroughly pleasant to drive. I've decided that it's not my bag though, and that it really distracts people from, how can I say it, my desire in my life is that when people look at me, that they would see Jesus. And when you're driving around in a Ferrari, all they ever see is the car. But the interesting thing is, I drove from Howick to my home, which is about a 5-minute trip, and at one point I was stopped at some roadworks and a couple of other spots. In that trip, I got called an effing wanker 3 times just whilst driving the car. In fact, 2 of them when I was at the roadworks, I was stopped. At no point was I doing wheelies or driving, bizarrely. So I just thought that was incredible. That to me shows what's inside of people, whether it's jealousy or whatever. And the other thing was that this afternoon we've got a friend who's will never own a Ferrari probably, but loves them, and so picked him up and let him have a drive. And when we were going past all the schools, we happened to be driving past just like 3:15, that the kids would just yell and scream when they saw the car, and a cool car, and they were so excited. I thought it was interesting that kids' kind of hearts and spirits, if you like, are not stuffed up by life, and so they just thought, wow, it was exciting, but the adults thought I had various sexual problems that would appear in many cases. And really sad, whenever I would get out of the car and go into a cafe to get a coffee or anywhere where people see me get out of the car, it's just so weird. I have waitresses trying to flash their boobs at me, and it's totally bizarre. Even in gas stations, I suddenly get called sir, and it's just been. I think it's very sad. That's how people measure the worth of another. Anyway, there you go. So we talked about spirit, soul, and body, and sorry about that, we've got such an efficient cleaner that the light bulbs are on. Okay, so we talked about spirit, soul, and body, and obviously when things go wrong with our body, it's pretty straightforward. When things affect us in the area of our soul and our spirit, then they have an impact on us. And so over the next little while, I'm going to try and explain that to you in more detail. So I'm going to introduce some concepts to you that I know many of you who watch me or who hear me speak are Christians, so for you it will be kind of normal, but for some of you it won't be. I want to start to look at what makes us us. So we've talked about the components that make us up in terms of our physical reality. But what makes you how you are as opposed to how you could be or how you would be or how you should be. So what I want us to start to think about is this, that we are all affected by things that have happened to us. And some people take that to extremes. They blame everything on their past, and they blame everything on their parents. And so I'm not necessarily saying that, but there are things that would have affected us from our past. So the first thing I want us to think about is that we need to understand what's wrong. In other words, what are those things that don't operate in our life the way we would like them to? And in terms of acknowledging our need of a change, we need to start with that. So in your case, it might be, just to give you some ideas, that you are depressed, that you're negative, Could be something more extreme like being suicidal, or being very critical, or being angry, or just a general sense of a lack of well-being. I'm just giving you, these are some examples. So what I'm asking you to do is for you to think about what are the things that you think are the issues? What are the things that are the fruit in your life now that you are not happy with? All right, we're not talking about investing, or we're not talking about success. I'm saying, what are the things that you are unhappy with? Could be overeating, right? It might not be anything. It could be something practical like that. What are the things? And so one of the things that you need to decide for yourselves is to have a think about this and to decide, okay, what are the things that are affecting me in a negative way and that I'm not happy with? Okay, so what's wrong? Then the second thing that we need to consider, or that I'm going to ask you to have a think about, is after what's wrong, is when did it start? And for many of you, the answer is going to be as long as I can remember. But for others of you, there may well be an event or a pattern of behaviour in your family that you know started you down the path that you're on. And so this is where I want us to start you to think about what's wrong. So rather than me just kind of teach you some stuff, we want to try and help walk you through individually, because you're only watching this at home. There's no one else knows what's going on. What's wrong? What are you identifying something that's wrong, and when did it start? And what we want to look for here is are there things in your past that have wounded you? Are there things in your past that have affected your mind, your will, and your emotions, or even worse or more seriously, wounded you in your spirit? Now, I don't know another way for you to get those memories back if they're not there, or to kind of analyse that, except to ask God to show you. And whether you're a Christian or not, if you think about something like Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about God as you find him. So my encouragement to you is to acknowledge that you can't sort this out, yourself. I don't believe we were designed to run our own lives. We were designed by a creator who wants to help us run our lives. And so if you think about God as you find him, and ask him, when did the thing start? What was it that might have triggered it? Now, for some of you, there may not have been an event. Okay, I'm not fishing for stuff that's not there, but there might be an event that happened. And sometimes, some people find, if something that makes you feel good, for example, might be to look at the sea. So go when you can. Go and sit on a beach or on a bench, somewhere where you generally feel at peace, and just say, God, what's wrong with me? Or just see what memories from your past might come up. We have this incredible capacity to protect ourselves, and so what we do is we shut down the memories that we don't want. And what that actually does is it's impacting, it is damaging us in our soul and our spirit, and making it difficult, if not impossible, for us to ever function normally. And so until we can get back to that root and know what's actually going on, then we can start to deal with it. And it's not always a really major traumatic event. The impact that an event has on us will vary wildly from person to person. I've had quite a lot of experience in working in healing ministry with people who've been sexually abused, for example. And I've met people who've been in the scariest families, in satanic grown up in satanic cults and been sodomized when they were children and like just totally destroyed. And yet, that's obviously damaged them significantly, but yet they managed to function pretty well, and the impact that this incredibly horrific events over a long period of time has had on them has been significant, but not as destructive as you would have expected. Now, on the flip side, the example that really comes to mind was a lady who'd really been significantly traumatized emotionally, and the actual event that had caused it was, from memory, it was an uncle or a distant relative, and when she was in her probably early teens or 11, 12 or whatever, she would kind of be semi-forced to sit on his knee, and he would basically pat her bum, but it was obviously in a slightly suggestive way. But that was as much as ever happened to her. The impact that had on her life was phenomenal, just incredible. So it's not necessarily about the event, it's about how you have reacted as a person, to that event. Now, because you were created with a spirit and a soul and happened to be in a body, your personality was there when you were born. I do not believe at all that we're a blank slate and that we develop our personality. I've had 5 kids. They were different from the moment they popped out, and in many cases before they popped out. And those of you who are parents will know the same thing. So there are aspects of our personality, the significant portions of it, that are there when we're born. And so depending on what that personality is like, that will affect how you respond to a particular situation. Some people are just survivors. Some people are very sensitive. In my own life, I was very, sensitive, for want of a better word, as a younger kid. And when I was 2 years old, I got a hiding for lying about something, and I hadn't lied. The impact of that on me was huge. It started me on a path of deception and dishonesty that took me, it was like 30 years to try to actually identify what was going on and start to get sorted out from it. So it came from, not necessarily just from that one event, but the impact of that on me was quite severe. I had worked quite a lot for a while with some Polynesian families, and Polynesian abuse victims, and the level of abuse that they suffer in many cases is indescribable. And yet the impact it has on them in terms of their ability to function normally, is surprisingly low many times. So given that we're all different when we're born, our reaction to the event is what's going to be the important thing. Now, some people go to get hypnotised to find these things out and go to be regressed and all those things. I can only tell you that for me as a Christian, from a spiritual point of view, I believe that is very dangerous. I believe you're dealing with demonic activity and power, and that the things that you'll hear and the things that you'll see and the things that will get uncovered are not necessarily truth, and they will not set you free. So I just encourage you, first of all, to think back yourself. Maybe if this is helping you or you're serious about this, just write down any really significant events that you can think of that have happened to you. And if you can't, get in a place where you can sit and just, be still. And my encouragement to you is to say, God, what are the things that have affected me that make me not function how you wanted me to do? So that's your little bit of homework for tonight. And tomorrow night we'll get on to, from those events, we'll start to unpack what are the behaviours that we might have displayed and the damage that started to establish the patterns that cause us to be dysfunctional now. Thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Thank you again, many of you who are emailing me saying, when's the next blog coming? I just wanted to give you a couple of days, but I really appreciate your encouragement and hope you find this helpful. See you soon. Bye-bye.